Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Forex Build the Forex Robot Workshop Part 3, where we're supposed to see how we can go about building EE to watch for price action, right? So this is actually a little bit more complicated than the first two series, where we had indicators, we had to just figure out how to use them. So right now, all the functionalities we need, it's there. It's just about how to mix it. It's like, think of it like Scrabble, right? So think of it like Scrabble. You have the Scrabble board. You also have pieces of letters that you can rearrange. So it's all down to your creativity, how you can rearrange those letters in the right order, on the right, on the most what I call it, the best possible way, on the best possible blocks of Scrabble boards to get the best points. So all we need is there, but you just have to, it's down to your creativity in this sense, right? Now, so as usual, remember, like I always tend to mention, when it comes to building EA, we still follow through, we still go through the same process, right? We want to, I'm not going to go through, actually going to build the flow chart and all of those things, because we're making up this one as we go. So the goal of what we're trying to do here now is not about building a profitable EA. It's about building an EA that really does watch for price action. So maybe pin bar, right? Maybe engulfing candles. Can we tell our EA to watch for engulfing candles maybe above let's say if the EA sees an engulfing candle above the 200 EMA, a bullish engulfing candle above the 200 EMA maybe looks to buy. If you see the bearish engulfing below the 200 EMA, maybe looks to sell. Maybe just that. And you can still do the same thing, flip it up for pin bar and all of those things. Okay, so basically one of the first things we always tend to do is, okay, start on starts. Is there no trade? So there should be no trade open. Anyway, my scribble doesn't make sense. So if there are no trades, then you should then proceed to then run the rest of the codes. Kingsley, your hand is up. Can you quickly state what your problem is or the challenges?
Yes, the screen is not shared. I'm not seeing your screen. Just to mention, I was not in the former two classes.
You have to get that. You have to get get those ones. The links are on my YouTube channel. You can watch those. So I can't go back and talk about those two here.
No, yeah. I'm not expecting that you go back. If I have a link to
yeah, don't worry. You get it. You should be able to see my screen, Mr. Vagide. Others, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so I guess Mr. Kingsley, you need to probably figure out what the issue is on your end. Okay, so let us proceed. Please keep your mic muted. It's going to be recorded, so when you're watching it, it makes it would be coherent and fluid. Okay, so Mr. Kingsley, it's unfortunate that you've not gone through the first part because anyway, it's still you're a trader, I guess. I'm believing you should still be able to follow along what we're doing. Anyway, this doesn't really have anything to do with trading. Now, so once we've checked that there are no trades, that's like the first thing we want to do. The next step is we want to set the conditions. Condition one, if there are many conditions, lay out the conditions for a buy. And if those conditions are right, it will look to buy. Then for sales, we lay out the conditions that it has to check if they are correct. And if they are correct, it will look for a sell. This is basically what is involved in building an EA. You have on stats, okay, check for trading conditions, and then once they have, you check for buy. You have certain criteria for looking for buy. What do you call it? Buy. What are the conditions for buying? So if it's crossing over, like we did the last time, we used moving average. If that's the case, you lay out the conditions for buying, so that when those conditions are met, it executes a buy. Then the conditions for sell, you also lay it out, so that when those conditions for sell are met, it executes itself. So basically, what we're going to try and do now is we're going to try and do that same thing, but this time instead of looking at that based on indicators, we're trying to see if we can set up candlestick setup. So basically, some of the common candlestick patterns are the engulfing candle. So the engulfing candle is, so a bullish engulfing candle would be something like, so you would have a bearish candle, right? Maybe have wicks, and then you would have it followed up by a bullish candle, which basically covers the bearish candle. So this is a bullish engulfing candle. and it usually signifies strength. The price would most likely go up, right? The opposite would be a bearish engulfing, where it would be a situation where, you know, there would be a bullish candle, and then it will be followed up by a bearish candle that is, you know, bigger than the bullish candle, and this usually signifies strength in sellers. A price is most likely going to, you know, come down. So if this is to be true, then if we see a bullish candle, we could likely be able to take advantage of, you know, few bullish push. And if we see a bearish candle, we should be able to take advantage of a few bearish push. Now, you all know that this is not in a perfect world, in an ideal world, 100% of the time, this would be the case. But you know from trading that that is not always the case. So, which is why, you know, obviously, remember, this is for test purposes. This is for training purposes. It's all about the strategy, right? There might be other criteria you might want to layer on top, you know, when you're actually looking to build something you want to use on real time. Now, other types of candlestick setup, there is the doji, which is more or less an indecision candle. There's also the like pin bar. So there's a bearish pin bar, you know, where it has a long upper wick considerable to the lower wick and the real body, and a bullish pin bar would be a candle where it has a, you know, a long lower wick considerable to the when you consider that in relation to the what we call it, to the lower wick. So the lower wick is longer, the real body is small. At least the real body is smaller than you know, it's maybe 2 to 3 times smaller than the wick of the candle. This would be a bullish pin bar. This would be a bearish pin bar. This would be a bullish engulfing candle, and this would be a bearish engulfing candle. Now, so what we'll do, I don't know if our time would allow, if we'll be able to run through both of them, but we would look at, maybe we'll break it up into 2 separate trainings at different times, but we would try and build an EE to look for a bullish engulfing and a bearish engulfing, maybe using the moving average, maybe a trend-based moving average, as part of the criteria, because we don't just want to, we can definitely set it up to look for only the engulfing or candles, but you know, so just keep looking for trades in any time he sees, or picking trades anytime he sees that. So let's see how we can go about you know, setting that up. Okay, and remember, if you have questions, just simply type in your question in the chat box, and I will come back to those questions in a bit. Okay, now so we'll start up as usual. Remember, whatever EEs we build, you know, probably I'll take this a step further at some point and build an EE that might be variable. I'll send it out across to the Telegram group. You can use it to play around on all of those things. Remember, it's your money, it's your responsibility. It's not ANZO giving you EE. The goal is showing you how to build EE. But if you want to use it, it's your responsibility. Okay, so first off, we want to check that there are no trades. So we'll pick our no trade conditions. I'm not going to go back and really break down this thing. If you don't have the site really cleared out, go and watch the first 2 trainings. Okay, so no trades. You know, my style, I like to label it properly. So say no trade buy and sell. So we have that, and you know, I think we don't need to do anything here. Everything looks good. So the next thing we want to do is, okay, let's what are we trying to accomplish? That's the first point. What are we trying to accomplish? So let's say we're trying to build, we're trying to look for bullish setup. So bullish engulfing, bullish bearish engulfing candles in general. So we're trying to trade engulfing candlestick. Let's say that's what our strategy is based on. Now, one good thing about FX Dreamer, it has for engulfing candle. There's obviously there are other ways. Yes, there's you know, we can go into conditions, and so then if you think about it, right, what is an engulfing candle? So if an engulfing candle is saying that, okay, for a bullish engulfing, it means that the previous one, the previous candle has to be a bearish candle, and then it has to be, you know, the body of the next candle, also the most recent one has to be a bullish candle, right, that covers or engulfs the previous one. So basically, the point of an engulfing candle can be that, okay, well, the close price for this recent candle, the closing price is higher than the closing price and the opening price of the, you know, previous candle. You know, so that is the way of defining an engulfing candle. In the case of a pin bar, you know, you can say that for a bullish pin bar, you want, for a bullish pre-bar, for instance, you want to see that, okay, the closing price is higher than the opening price. Also, the wick of the candle is maybe 2 times or 3 times higher, bigger than the size of the body. So this is where your creativity comes into place, in how you set things up. It's there for you, but it's not going to build itself. It's down to your creativity in many of these cases. But we're going to use we're going to use under these various signal inputs here. There's something. There is an option. You see stuffs, bull candle, bear candle, bull candles in a row. So what we'll use now is we'll take a bull candle. So an engulfing candle is basically a bullish engulfing candle is basically a bullish candle that is bigger than a previous bearish candle. I hope that makes sense. This is an engulfing candle. We have a bullish candle, right? We have a bullish candle in this case that is bigger or engulfs the previous bearish candle. So with that in mind, well, I think we can use this various signal options. So bull candle, so what we're going to do is double click on it. Candle ID. So candle ID, one thing to note is when you're building on FX Dreamer, candle ID 1, when you have candle ID set to 1, it always represents the current candle. So that means you're looking at the current candle, right? Candle ID 2 is talking about the previous candle. Obviously, then that means candle ID 3 will be the two, or I call it the candle before the current candle. I hope that doesn't confuse you. So, but candle ID 1 represents the current candle. Candle ID 2 represents the previous candle, right? So that's what we're doing here. Now, we're going to just check this box so that we can modify it later. So bull candle, we're saying candle ID 1. That means we're looking at the current candle. So the current candle has to be a bull candle. And the body size, so here, minimum body size, we say, let's just leave it at 5. That means the minimum size of the body has to be 5. Okay. Now that said, we can click on update here. Now, remember, like what we all mentioned, a bullish engulfing is a bullish candle that is preceded by a bearish candle that is smaller than it. So the next candle, or the candle 2, or candle with candle ID 2, needs to be a bearish candle. Hence, we're looking at the bear candle here, right? Now, double click on this. Make sure that we're looking at candle ID 2, right? We can also check this. And the minimum size of the candle ID 2, obviously, it has to be lower. Let's make it 3, for example. So this is in pips, by the way. And we have that. So what we'll do is we connect this to here, and we connect this to here. So this is basically our right-hand side. That means our left-hand side, however you want to call it, right-hand side, left-hand side, depends on your point of view. So our left-hand side in this case is our bullish condition. So that means if it checks and there are no trades, it will look at this side. Whatever is done here, that will be the condition for you sell, for a buy, right? Now, before we go down even further, let's set the parameters for a sell. Now, so that means we'll need to see a sell candle and also a bull candle, right? So basically, just like we mentioned, for a bearish engulfing candle is a bearish candle, right? That is bigger than the previous bullish candle, right? So this is a bearish engulfing, right? Because this is a sell candle or a down candle or a bear candle that is bigger than the previous bullish candle. So this is a bearish engulfing. So how do we describe that? Well, candle ID 1, that's the recent candle, has to be a bear candle, right? And also candle ID 2 has to be a bull candle. So let's label this, just name this bull candle. Let's just name it 1. And we'll call this bear candle. No, that's bear candle. Let's call this 2. And this would be bear candle 1. And bull candle with candle ID. So we're just labeling it. The label doesn't really have much to do with it. It's just so that we understand what we're seeing. Now, when we double click on it, this has to be set to 1. We'll leave the minimum body size to 5 pips. We'll save that. The bull candle will leave, we'll have to change this to 2. And then we'll set the minimum candle so let's put it at 3 pips. And we'll check this box and we'll save that. And we'll connect this and connect this to this. So basically what we've done here now is we've done the first part basically, right? So what is going on here is the EA would look and say, okay, well, if there are no trades, this is when it will run this code. And let's say it says, okay, there are no trades. Then it will go through this leg and it will check, actually it will check both areas. But if it runs through this side, it will check the first candle. Okay, is it a bullish candle? If the answer is yes, is the body of the candle bigger than 5 pips? And the answer is yes, this one is correct. It will go down again. And then it will check the next one. Is it a bear candle? If the answer is yes, it will check, is the body of the bear candle lower than equal to 3 pips? I think that's what we set. And if the answer is yes, before it will run down and check the next point. So what will be the next point? Well, this is where we'll now put in a little bit of creativity. So we'll come to conditions, we pick out the conditions and just simply set the parameter. So under conditions here, what we'll do is we'll take, so what are we trying to do? Basically, that means we need to compare candle 1 and candle 2. We need to compare those candles together, right? Compare their close prices. So instead of using indicator here, we'll just compare candles, right? We'll compare the close candle of candle 1, right? So this candle 1, it has to be bigger. Now let's go back and draw again for a bullish engulfing. That means candle 1, which is this one, this is the opening price. If this is a bullish candle, then this is the opening price. This is the close price, right? For an engulfing, for a bullish engulfing, right? Let me draw this one properly. For a bullish engulfing, right, the close price of the candle 1 has to be greater than the opening price for candle 2. Not so? I don't know if that makes sense. The close price for candle 1 has to be greater than the opening price for candle 2. That's the only logical way that we have. That's the only logical way that we have a. That's the simple explanation for a bullish for an engulfing candle. That's one of the criteria basically, because if it's bullish, if it's an engulfing candle, if it's a bullish engulfing candle. First of all, this one has to be a bearish candle. And this one has to be a bullish candle, and this one needs to be bigger than this one, right? Now, if this one is big, if this one has to be bigger than this one, well, the close price for this one needs to be bigger than the close price for this one. Both the close and the opening price actually. So that's the condition we are basically trying to set up here. Just give me a minute. Okay, so like I was trying to mention, because before I got distracted, the close candle for the current candle, that's if we're looking at the bullish candle, needs to be greater, right? It needs to be above the opening candle of the previous one, right? So that's what we'll do. We'll look at candle. We're looking at the close candle of candle 1. It needs to be greater than, now we'll compare that to candle 2, the opening candle of the opening price of candle 2. Right? I hope that makes sense. Now, we don't need to set any other thing. Here, it's fine under more setting. We don't need to do anything. And this is conditions for this side. So we can just right click and rename this. What do we call this now? Call it candle. Call it candle 1 close. Okay. And then we do the same thing. Let's just copy this. And we use it here, but then modify it a little bit. So this would be, yeah. Okay, so remember what we did here, we're comparing the close candle of candle 1, we're trying to see that it is higher than the candle open of candle 2, right? I hope that makes sense. The candle close of the current candle, that's the engulfing candle, It needs to be greater than both the candle open and the candle close of the previous candle, right? Okay, so that is the condition or the parameters for the that needs to be seen if we're having a bullish candle. This is a bullish engulfing. Now the bearish engulfing would just be the opposite. It needs to be lower than. So the closed candle, because remember, a bearish engulfing candle, this would be a, so if a bearish engulfing candle would look like this, the previous one would be a bullish candle. So this one will be a bullish candle, and the close of this one needs to be lower than the close and the open of this one, right? So that is what we set there. And click on update. And we connect this to this like so, and we connect this to this like so. Now, so let's explain exactly what is going on here. So now basically what we've just done is say, okay, if there are no trades, right? If there are no trades, which is number one, then it will check both legs. Now, if it checks the first one, it will say, okay, is it a bullish candle? If the answer is yes, okay, it's a bullish candle. That's the current candle is a bullish candle. So if it sees a bullish candle, it will say, okay, so let me make that green. If the current candle is a bullish candle, it will say, oh, that's fine. So this is the side I will go towards. It will now say, is the previous candle a bearish candle? And if the previous candle is a bearish candle, it will say, oh, that's fine. So if the previous candle is like this, to say, oh, that's fine. Then it will check the condition. Is the close price of the current candle bigger than the close price of the previous candle? If the answer is yes, well, this has passed as an engulfing candle. However, it's also possible that, well, this is a big bullish candle, so it would say, oh, that's fine. It's a bullish candle, it will check this side. Is the next one a bearish candle? To say, yes, it's a bearish candle. But if the next one is a bearish candle and it looks like this, well, even though it's a bearish candle, it will now say, check this part. Okay, is the close price of the current candle greater than the opening price of the previous candle, right? Because this will be the open and this will be the close. So if the close price of the current candle is not higher or greater than the opening price of the previous candle, then this can never be an engulfing candle. So you see how, even though there's no exact parameters to say engulfing candle, we have, by looking at what an engulfing candle is and defining it, we can set, we can basically set it to watch for that. So this case, it would not do anything here because parameters, the conditions do not meet, right? That even reminds me, it seems we need to modify something here. So we're looking at candle close of candle 1 versus candle open of candle 2, right? So candle close of candle 1 versus candle open of candle 2, and they were for both cases. So this would also be candle open of candle 2, because it's possible that it is higher than candle close, but it is lower than candle open. So candle open is the right one to select. And then in this case, now we can instantly put a buy now here, right? We can tell it to buy now once those conditions are met. And okay, you see, we'll do that. We'll do just that, right? Then we'll come back and modify it. So we're going to say, let's use 0.01. So let's go after 10 pips. Let our stop loss be 20 pips, for instance. We're going after 20 pips, right? Let's just leave it like that. Bad risk to reward ratio, yeah, I know. And then same thing here. Let's leave that stats. Let's go after 20 pips, 20 pips. And then we said that. So basically, what we've just done now is we have built our EA to look for this. So let's group this like this. Now we'll build our EA to basically say, oh, if you're looking at the chart and if current candle closed, the current candle has closed and it is a bullish candle, check if the next one, the one before it, was bearish. If it's bearish, check if the closing price of the current candle is greater than the opening price of the previous candle. If the answer is yes, buy, right? For sell, it will check, is the current candle a bear candle? If the answer is yes, it will go down. Check, is the previous candle a bull candle? If the answer is yes, it will go down. It will check, is the close price of the current candle greater than the open price of the previous, in this case, lower than the open price of the previous candle. If the answer is yes, it will then sell, use the parameters we set. So what we'll do now is we'll download our project, we'll test it and see. The goal is to see that it is doing exactly what we asked it to do. Remember, we're building this on the fly, right? The goal is to see if it's going to do exactly what we asked it to do. And if that's the case, well, beautiful, 1 point. Because when it comes to building testing your project as you go along the way is very, very important, because sometimes you make some mistakes. You don't want to, it's by testing it that you figure out, oh, I got this wrong here, I go back and fix it. So for example, if I did not change that here, change it to open price, we'll notice that it will start picking some random trades that did not match the criteria for an engulfing. And then we'll have to figure out where the mistake is coming from. But unfortunately, we're able to figure that out before, like without having to go that phase. So what I'll do now is I'll share, I think I'll share my screen to the MT4 so that we will test it and see how that goes. Okay, so we have downloaded our project, and now we want to go and test out what we just downloaded and see if it. Remember, the goal is to see if it's is able to spot bullish and bearish engulfing, and it's able to trade them. Remember, what we set for it to do is that it should. So let's go back there. We set for it to buy when those conditions are set. Take profits of what did we set? 20 pips, stop loss of 20 pips. So that's what we set for it. So we want to see it do just that. So we're going to deploy this. It's I think the name is ANZO, price action ANZO tests, price action, yeah. And then we'll deploy it on Euro USD, deploy it on the 1 hour time frame. I think the properties, just check it quickly. Yeah, everything looks on point. And so what we do now is we would start it, and so don't worry, you see, well, after we see it do exactly what we want it to do, we would then try and see if we can modify it a little bit, okay? So now it's running. What we want to see is when we spot an engulfing candle, it should trade it. It should trade it, okay? It's too fast. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. I don't know if you can see my screen clearly, but let me zoom in a little bit. Now, if you can see my screen, you'll notice that it took a, what did it buy? It took a buy here. Sorry, please confirm to me you can see my screen. Or if you can, you'll notice that it took a buy. So you can see these blue dots there. This blue line here represents take profits, while this red one here represents stop loss. Now, the question that we're asking ourselves is, why did it buy? The only reason it should buy is if there's an engulfing candle. Well, what is this? Is that not an engulfing candle? Well, it is. You can see that this previous candle was a bearish candle. This next one is a bullish candle. It is bigger. This is a clear engulfing candle, and that was the reason it took a buy. Again, it took a sell. You can see it took a sell trade here, right? If you look closely, you'd see that there's a blue line here. That's where the take profit is. This is where our stop loss is, 20 pips, right? So 20 pips, 20 pips. Why did it take that sell? Well, this is an engulfing candle. Not so. This one was a bullish candle. This one is a bearish candle. This one completely engulfs this one. Hence, an engulfing candle, and it sold. So let's keep playing price, and let's see if we'd be able to spot it exactly at the right time. It's too fast. Again, you could see that it took another trade, right? Now, in this case, now this one ended up going on to be a profit. It now depends on how you define engulfing, because it's considered the candle close, the body of the candle. You could see this one is not exactly an engulfing candle, right? But based on the parameters we set to it, it is correct based on the parameters we set to it, because this candle close is higher than this candle open. Now, we did not factor into consideration the wick of the candle, which obviously in this case is okay. So let's keep on going. And it's too fast. Okay, let me slow it down a little. It will now become too slow. So you can see it took another buy trade here, right? Because of this engulfing, it took another buy trade here. You can see it here as well. It took another buy trade here because of this candle. This is an engulfing candle, and it took a buy here, take profits here, stop loss here, ended up going on to hit stop loss, right? So as far as we're concerned, it is doing exactly what it should do, which is good. You know, I want to catch one that is live, which is yes, perfect. So you can see that I was able to post this one at the right time, and it got, you know, the trade. So you could see that it took, in this case, it took a sell. Why did it sell? And where did it sell? It sold here, right? Because of this candle, right? Now, we probably need to modify this a little bit, because even though this is an engulfing candle, we're not, you know, it's not taking into consideration the wicks of the candle. So, you know, we can also add another condition into it, take advantage to take into consideration that. But it took a sell based on that criteria, based on this engulfing, and then we set a take profit target at 20 pips and a stop loss target at 20 pips as well, right? So let's see what this one ends up doing. Okay. Okay, that one ended up being, what did it end up being? It ended up being a loss or a win, I don't even know. Now, it doesn't really matter. I'm not really bothered about whether it's a win or a loss. It's the fact that it's doing exactly what we asked it to do. In this case, it took another trade because of this engulfing and so on and so forth. So what we'll do now is, what's our time? How much time do we have? Okay, but what we'll do now is we'll add another layer of condition on top of it, so that we can maybe take advantage and take into consideration the wicks of the candle. I think it makes sense to take into consideration the wicks of the candle, and maybe we add a trend moving average so that it looks for only buy trade maybe above the 200 EMA, and look for only sell trade, or to trade bearish engulfing only below the 200 EMA. Okay, so if we go back to our builder workspace here, the question is, so what can we do to make this thing to you know, spot exactly what we're looking for? Well, one thing I can say here is the fact that it's taking into consideration the body of the candle alone. It's not taking into consideration the wicks. So for example, what we built now, we'll see something like this as a bullish engulfing, right? It will see this as a bullish engulfing because, well, the close of the candle is greater than the open of this next one. It's not paying attention to the wicks. And the question is, so how can we get it to pay attention to the wick of the candle? You could think, I'm sure there's 1,001 ways to do it, but another, you know, the one that comes to my mind now, mind you, I'm building this thing on the fly. I've not built, you know, I'm making it up as we go, so that it's more real time. So what we'll do now is we'll try and see if we can set up another condition for it to pay attention to the wick or on both sides of the candle, right? So now the question, if I throw that out to be, so what is the best way to go about that? I'm looking at this, I'm saying, well, we can also add another condition and say that, well, the candle close in this case should be greater than the highest, you know, the highest point in the candle, and maybe also the lowest point in the candle. No, not necessarily. Does it have to be greater than the lowest point in the candle? Yeah, I guess it should, right? And then we'll see how that runs. This class might span a little bit over the allotted time, but I guess that's fine. So what we'll do is let's push this down a little bit. You know, just this. I think this is a good learning experience because you get to see also do it real time. So we'll delete this connection. Also, let's delete this connection because we want to add another condition. So what I'll do is we'll just simply drag another condition here, and you know, let's call it candle wick. And upper wick. So candle upper wick. just copy. Okay, let's not copy that yet. And let's modify this. So we want to pay attention to the candle. But in this case, we want to ensure that, so notice, I'm going to just go back. Notice here, we're looking at candle one's close being greater than candle two's open, right? So now we're also going to make sure that candle one's close, right, is also greater than candle two's high. So candle high, make sure this is candle two, right? Also, we want to also make sure, so I can copy this as well. So copy and paste it here. We also want to check that candle one's, so we'll call this will be candle's lower wick. So let's edit it. Lower. So we also want to check that candle one's, anyway, if I don't think we need to check the lower wick. I don't think we need to check the lower wick for a buy, for a bullish engulfing, because it would definitely be lower, except to check that the lower wick of candle two is also greater than candle one's lower wick. Okay, so you see we're making this up as we go. So here in this case, we'll also check that candle one's, right, not close this time, candle one's low is also less than, in this case, than candle two's low. Now I'm beginning to confuse you, but let's explain what we just did. Now, what you're noticing when we back tested, it would the EA would look at a candle that looks like this. So this would be, if you look at a candle that looks like this and call it a bullish engulfing. No, not like that. Maybe a candle that looks like this. Why am I drawing this way? A candle that looks like this, it will still call it a bullish engulfing. Do you understand? Because we were saying watch for candle close of the current candle. If it is higher than candle open of the previous candle, then it's a bullish engulfing. And that statement is true. However, it did not take into consideration the highs and the lows of the candle. So which is why we are now adding two more conditions to take into consideration the highs and the low of the candle. So the first condition we say is that, okay, wait, the high point in the candle should not be greater, right, than the high point of the current candle. I think instead of using candle close here, we should have used the candle wick, right? So we're building this as we go, which is actually quite lovely for you as well. So maybe it will consider this to a bullish engulfing. Now it's now dependent on you. Do you want to consider this a bullish engulfing? If that's yes, then you can build it that way. But what we'll just do is we'll take into consideration the candle close, not the candle high of this one, right? Which is why we're saying, well, the close of this candle should be greater than the high of this previous one. And then the low of this candle should also be less than the low of this candle. Because if this candle is lower than this one, it doesn't necessarily becomes a bullish engulfing. But if we have something that looks like this, right? So this would be 1, and the next one will look something like this. Maybe something like this. Well, this would be a bullish engulfing because first of all, the close of this candle is higher than the open of this candle. Next, the high point of this candle is also lower than the close of this candle. And then the low of this candle is also lower, or it's higher than the low of this candle. Therefore, this is the conditions that we set, right? So what we'll do now is we'll build it again, and then we'll go and see if it's doing just that. So what are we doing here? We're checking the low of the first candle needs to be greater in this case. It needs to be lower. No, the low of the first candle needs to be lower than the low of the second candle, right? Then we update. So what we'll just do is we'll just copy this and modify it. Paste it here and modify it. So the candle upper wick, in this case, the candle upper wick, right, needs to be lower. The candle upper wick needs to be lower than the candle high of this one. And then the candle lower wick needs to be higher. Okay, updates, connect this. Okay, so we have done this, and okay, and let's go and test it, and hopefully it works. We'll download our project again, save it, and so let me load up the empty file so we can run it as well. Okay, so I have loaded the new EA that we built, which is taking into consideration the wicks of the candle. And what we want to do now is see that it is taking that into account, okay? So we've loaded it up, or just check that everything is in order. And then we'll start the back test. Make sure this is the candle, put it this way, and put it this way. So let's see whether it takes that into consideration, okay? So once this loads up, yeah, I think we should be good to go. So let's see. Okay, so let's zoom in again, make sure that it's taking the right trades. So here again, you can see it took a buy here, right? You can see it because it uses the close of the candle. So it took a buy here. The question is, why did it take that buy? Well, it took it because of this bullish engulfing. Now, is that a bullish engulfing as we like? Yes, I think that passes as a very good bullish engulfing. So even though the trade went on to be a loss, it is doing exactly what we asked it to do. So that's fine, right? That's very fine for me. So let's proceed to see, especially those ones that it took before. Now, yes, if you remember, if you're watching this in the recording on my YouTube channel, you should be able to rewind back and check. So you notice that I remember in the previous back testing, it took a buy trade here. Am I correct? It took a buy trade here. When you're watching it on the recording for live students, it's hard to go back. But if you remember, it took a buy trade here because this one passed as a bullish engulfing based on the first conditions we set. But you notice that it didn't take any trade here, right? So, which is good. Also, in the previous one, it took a buy trade here, right? But it did not take any trade here because now it is also considering the low of the candle, right? So you see that we have actually, clearly defined what we want, and it's actually paying attention to our definitions, and it's taking trade based on that. Again, it took another trade here, so you could see we had a buy. Why? Well, because this passes as a bullish engulfing. The low of this candle is lower than this one, and this one completely engulfs it. So very fine. It took a trade, even though it went on to be a loss, it is a bullish engulfing, right? And so let's just continue to play price. And continue to play price. Okay, you could see another bullish engulfing candle here. Again, that's a clear bullish engulfing candle that it took a buy, and now remember, we're not paying attention to whether it's profit or loss. We're paying attention to the fact that it is doing exactly, it's watching for bullish engulfing or bearish engulfing and taking trade based on those criteria. Okay. And so far it's been taking bullish trade, or is it because maybe there's no bearish setup yet? I want to see a bearish trade. Yeah, remember this was that one that we talked, the last one, that it took a buy trade here because it considers this a bullish engulfing. But you see that it did not take any trade here because of the new conditions that we set into it. I don't think I've seen any sell trades. Okay, yes. This is also it's sold here. Okay, now so you see that it took a sell trade considering this a bearish engulfing. That means our condition for sell was a little bit off because it considered this a bearish engulfing, right? So what we set was that I think it did not really, oh, okay, we're supposed to switch up the parameters. For sell, well, the low of the candle here should be, of the low of the second candle, please keep your mic muted. The low of the second candle should be higher, right, than the low of the first candle, of the recent candle, right? The low of the previous candle should be higher, right? If I were to go back to the low, let's go and see what our condition actually was. So let's come here. The low of the first candle should be greater than, oh no, it shouldn't be greater than, it should be less than, in this case, it should be less than the low of the second candle. I think, and then the, let's see, the candle close should be less than, should it be less than the high? So this is bearish. The candle close should be, yeah. So anyway, this is the disadvantage of building it live as we're going. If I built it before, then, you know, I'll just run it through. But I think that first condition is why it took that. But it's good. It's a good learning practice. The good thing is you see that it's doing exactly what we asked it to do based on what we set. Like I mentioned, it's garbage in, garbage out. In this case, we built garbage and it gave us, the buys were proper. It took, the buys looked okay. The sells went so good because we did not set the condition right, and it took sales. It considered this a bearish engulfing, even though I don't think that is supposed to be considered a bearish engulfing. Okay, so I think in the next class, so notice in today's class we simply only consider building the engulfing candle. So in the next class, what we'll do is, before the next class, I'll have just make this properly, build it properly so that it looks okay. And then we'll do that for a pin bar, right? So we'll tell our EA to be able to watch for pin bar. You see how we do that: bullish pin bar, bearish pin bar, and we'll have that run. Okay. So thank you very much. This is where we would call it a wrap. Remember, this class is only exclusive for clients who have funded their account. So if you funded your account, that's why you have the access to this link. I said to join the class. And also, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, it's going to be private. So it's going to be only open to people who have funded their account. You're the only ones who will be able to get the links to watch it as well. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. And I'll see you in the next class. If you're watching from the YouTube, please leave a like and definitely make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'm going to stop the recording just about now.